Welcome to episode 105 of the Camerosity podcast, the world's one and only open source film and digital photography podcast. My name is Mike Ekman, and we are back with a topic that you have all been telling us you'd like to talk about for quite a while: large format photography. In this episode, we hope to discuss any topic relating to the largest cameras ever made, the models, the film, the development process. No large format topic is forbidden. As always, we have the usual spate of Camerosity hosts, but joining Anthony, Paul, Stephen, Theo, and Mike on this episode is the creator of the handcrafted Greyflex-inspired Aero-Liberator, John Minnicks. John makes each Aero-Liberator in his home workshop by hand, assembling each one to the owner's desired specification using one of many mid-century Kodak Aero-Ektar surveillance lenses, ensuring that no two cameras are exactly alike. You guys have waited long enough for this show, so I'll skip the silly introductions as I can see the waiting room is filling up. So without further ado, let me hit that admit all button and get us started. While people are joining, I wanted to give a quick thanks to everyone who stopped by to say hi at the Chicago Camera Show on Sunday, February 22nd. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking to a lot of different people. And yes, I did fall prey to some camera gas. All right, we have a bunch of people here. I see some usual faces. Pat Casey, Bob Rodoloni, Will Pinkham. Ron G is back. Hey, Ron, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. Lloyd Greene. Welcome, Lloyd. Matt Marrash from FPP. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
All right. You sound professional. You could tell you've done this before. And John is joining right now. So hopefully we can get him connected. There he is. Hey, John.
Hey, greetings.
All right, welcome. I see we have a lot of great people here. We've been talking about doing a large format show. I think, though, before we even get started, the prologue of the show is maybe we should just define what large format even means. I know that it's kind of vague. For me, I think of it as any camera that, shoots like sheets or plates or anything like that. But does somebody want to take a stab at coming up with a definition of what exactly large format means?
Big.
There you go. Good word.
Larger than Minnox.
Larger than Minnox, yeah, for sure.
I'd say if you're at a size beyond roll film, that's when you're getting into large format, when you've got to be shooting individual sheets.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair.
That's actually a fairly modern interpretation because they used to have even 4x5 roll film back in the early 1900s. But I think for these days, Stephen, I think that's a very good description because anything above medium format, which is the 120 that we classify these days, would be considered large format.
Yeah, they also even used to have plates that were a size we would have considered medium format these days, so it definitely has changed.
Yeah.
So does my Voigtlander Bergheil, which is a 4.5 by 6, would that be a half frame large format?
Now we're splitting peas.
Yeah.
You could say it's 6 by 9. It would be large format, but really I think the accepted definition today is 4 by 5, just because of the film. And then, of course, you can go all the way to ultra large format if you want to go that far. But 4 by 5 basically is where I would consider it to be large format, where it starts.
What do you call 6 by 17?
Oh, now you're opening up a can of worms.
Yeah.
Expensive.
My interpretation is pretty fast and loose, but it all goes into the mentality and effort going into the process. And if you're going to put in large format effort, you can call it large format. If it's making a daguerreotype on a 110 size plate, you're insane. Welcome to the club. I used to get all my panties in a bunch about 6 by 17. Oh, that's not large. It is. It's large format. There's so much carryover. So I think large format is like an effort and a process-based thing. And for calling it 4 by 5 and up is great. But then it just becomes, what a bunch of guys in a room do anyway, is talk about comparing sizes. So, yeah.
I think these are all great answers.
You could just go by square inches if you really needed to define it to the nth degree.
I don't know, Paul. I really want to see a daguerreotype 110 camera.
They're pretty cool.
While we were talking, a few more people jumped in. João Gomes. Cletus is here. Cletus was at the show. And I think I saw Howard Sandler jumped into. So we got a nice variety of people. We've defined large format as both a size and an effort / philosophy behind it. But why don't we get started with John? I don't know, John, do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want to say hi, or would you like me to try to butcher what you do?
Where do we start? First camera was a Brownie camera, and then a Kodak Retina Reflex 3, and then got into darkroom when I was like 12, 13, and then professional photographer, and was really a master in photo composition in the darkroom, and in and off, on and off of 8x10 camera and any format in between. I built cameras for assignments, make up weird things and build it for the clients, and special effects and photo composition and masking and friskets and all that cool stuff, I had a studio up in Wilton, Connecticut and Bridgeport, Connecticut, and the last studio was in 1 Madison Avenue, Manhattan. Yeah, so that's kind of what I did. And then digital came out, and I was still doing photo composite work and effects work for some of the new people, before the Photoshop really developed. So that all collapsed and moved down to Asheville, North Carolina, and I just wanted to be able to see again. It's just years of just doing intense work like this in the darkroom and on camera and things like that. And I wanted to be able to see again and experience photography. And I knew that, the mind and the eye can only really see one thing. And I wanted to explore that again, as opposed to all this composite images and all this stuff, and not to get away from the digital world, but it just wasn't really my gig. And so, I wanted to I knew I wanted an SLR camera and a 4x5 in order to get the distance and ratios and being able to see again, just be a part of, the vision part and explore. So I had the Graflex 4x5, and it was just a little big and the lenses weren't right. And so I came up with building the Aero-Liberator camera. So I used the Kodak Aero-Ectar lens on it, 178 2.5. And then the lens, since the back focus of it is so short, the back focus is like right here. So there's not much room to get it into a SLR camera. So somehow adapted the Graflex Super D so that I could get infinity. This thing, man, it's camera number 21 from 2012. It's been around.
The back focus, real quick, you showed it with your hand, but what was about 2 inches, would you say?
2 to 3 inches, yeah. Well, I'll show you what. So it's a 4x5 camera, right? Mm-hmm. Graph-lock back. And here's the lens. So this is focused at infinity. And here's the lens. Okay. Oh, there's the lens. And you can see the back. So you got the shutter and a mirror and all this stuff happening. And so it's just, it was a marathon to get it all to work out. And so it's got, I built tilt and swing on it. You did tilt and swing on the lens. And the beauty of it, I tried Xenotar lenses, the 150. 2.8, 2.5, whatever it is. And the focus of that is way too short to put on a full frame 4x5 or 3x4 camera. And came across the Aero-Ectar way back when. And the interesting thing about this, besides being an historic lens from World War II and thoriated, is that and fast, 2.5, is that it's actually, there's like a mapping lens and a flat field lens and a repo lens, and then like a 3-dimensional like studio lens. And so this is more of a flat field lens. It's a little different than the other ones. So you can actually, with the tilt and swing, you can control what's in focus and what's not. And that was really my intention to build the thing. I just wanted to be able to explore seeing kind of one thing as opposed to the whole grandeur, and the background becomes more, and I stop and start to look and absorb and be a part of the picture.
John, when you did the first one, how did the process go? Did you pick the body? You saw that the Graflex wasn't going to work. The speed graphic wasn't going to work.
No, the speed wasn't my gig. after having a studio, I mean, I had studios and you name it, E6 dip and dunk in house and, registered A10 enlargers and 4x5s and vacuum platens and, full studio. And my partner died and I just wanted a freaking camera that I could put in a donkey bag and, 3 or 4 film holders and a night meter and go and have some fun and shoot, real pictures. And so I had a 4x5 Super D a Series D that I fixed up. And that's when I met Fred Lustig. And Fred was the last owner of Graflex. And we became good friends. Fred was an interesting bird because the way he got into photography and doing things is he retrofitted medical equipment, Zeiss and all this high-end stuff. He made a nice living, put it that way. He was president of Mercedes-Benz USA. And I guess now Mercedes, they acquired Fred's cars. There's a museum, a little bit about Fred. So that's how I got to meet Fred. And he knew that I was designing and building stuff. So, when Fred died, he gave me the option to buy what I wanted to buy from the estate. So I just got limited amount of stuff. I just wanted enough for me to build my cameras. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but so the 4x5 camera was too big. It wouldn't fit any kind of lens that had that. And it's just a big camera for me. And then came across the 3x4 camera, which was smaller and it had a shorter focal plane to it. And so that started to work. And then the Aero-Ectar came up. And then, I had to machine the thing and figure out how to get it all to work.
And when you did that, it was, you collimated it to a landscape format.
Yeah.
You collimated it because of the focus. So the camera was set for the landscape format.
In order for me to get the camera or the lens to focus at infinity, which I wanted a full camera. And so it'll go from infinity with swing and tilt up to about 3 feet, a little under. In order to get that to all work, I had to machine the camera and all sorts of goodies inside, but it doesn't have an RB. So if I was to put an RB on it, that's going to extend the back and I wouldn't have infinity.
Right. So it had to be a fixed back.
Wouldn't have a full frame in the viewfinder. And it just got too hairy. It's like,
No, it makes perfect sense. I was curious about how you got to that point, but no, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, ask away.
And honestly, that camera is really built to shoot a landscape format anyway, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could shoot
it vertically if you wanted.
Basically a 4x4 camera.
Yeah.
And if you put a 4x5 back on it without getting really crazy in there, you still can't get a full 5-inch vertical out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'm right about this. This may be the only time in any podcast that we have the man who made the camera, as well as 2 guys who own the cameras.
Cool.
So I know Ron has one.
Yeah.
There's Ron's. And Mark, do you have one too?
I do. I have it handy here.
What number is yours, Mark?
Good question.
I still don't have one.
Get yourself on the list.
I still don't. I've had 110, right, Ron?
I'm 110. I'm 110. Yep.
I'm number 89.
You're 89. Cool.
Yeah.
OG. He's the OG.
Oh, man. What a trip.
So I have a question. You explained why you chose the Aero-Ectars, but how do you locate them? Like, where do you get them from?
Kodak still makes them just for me.
I kind of feel like that's not true.
No, I got a feeling he's yanking your crank here.
What is the Camerosity code for 2026?
For 2000, I don't know. I got to figure it out.
It would be AO, I think.
Okay.
Ahead,
yeah. No, as far as the Aero-Ectar lenses, I've come across 7 different variances of it. And I've got, I think, 18 of them in the other room. Some of them are clients. Where do I get them? I bought 8 of them from a dealer in Germany. And different camera shops had them, and I'd buy them, and clients would have them, and they'd come across them. And hey, Parker.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Parker had an early Liberator.
Yeah. What number was mine? Did they have numbers?
Yeah, they all did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so where do I get wherever they could pop up? And I work on them for people too.
You're not going to remember this, but you and I had a conversation 2 years or so ago about one that I had that had the element separation.
Okay.
Which is really, I think, pretty common with that camera, isn't it? Or with the lens.
Fairly on the rear element. Yeah. Mostly in the rear there. Yeah.
But the one I had lines. It wasn't like normal element separation. It was concentric lines throughout the lens.
Throughout the lens?
They were visible.
Yeah, they have different types of separations. Some of them are like the flower bursts.
Yeah.
And then some of them are just like holes. And then sometimes they just get murky in there.
These were like striations that you could see inside the glass. No, it's been a couple of years. I sent you some pictures.
Here, hold on one sec. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, Parker.
Parker, who are you?
Well, I'm just a dude.
Good. So we've all got that in common.
So are we.
John and I met, oh my gosh, almost 20 some years ago. Probably 20 years ago, I guess, at a little camera shop that doesn't exist anymore here in Asheville when he lived here. And I was homemaking my cameras and he was homemaking his cameras. And I was in there and talking about an Aero-Ectar, and he's like, wait, who are you? What are you talking about? And we got talking about it. We've been like, I had never known anybody with an Aero-Ectar.
That was like 18, 19 years ago.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. And we've gotten in trouble ever since.
Parker had a wonderful studio in Asheville, and he's a known shooter. You do mostly 810 paper now, right?
Yeah, 810 paper almost exclusively.
Okay, so that's the next. This is a good segue.
Here you go. Hold on.
What do you got there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a cutaway.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's a cutaway of the Aero-Ectar, and people are curious which is thoriated here, and the only thoriated lens this is a double group right here. Is the top one? That's the only one that's thoriated.
That's a different kind of lens separation.
And so usually the separation's back here. Yeah. It's usually that or the last or the middle one. Yeah, it was just I had a lens and the glass was all shot and the barrel was beat. So I cut it in half and gave half of it, the other half to Dave Burnett.
John, do you have a good picture of that cutaway? We like to include images of stuff like that in the notes. So if you have one, you could send to me.
I have a great one. I'll show it to you. Hold on.
Okay.
John, we can hire a photographer to take a picture of that for you if you.
Yeah. I guess we could always do a screenshot of the Zoom, but it's low quality.
So, do those Aero-Ectars go yellow like from the thoriated elements, like Takumars do?
Yeah. Usually you'll find, unless it's been cleaned, they're probably all going to be yellow unless it's been really bombarded to get rid of it.
And they can be unyellowed by sticking them in sunlight for like a few minutes.
High UV.
Usually a week or two for me sometimes. I have a tank that I have with UV light, and there's different spectrums that do slightly different things. And I've heard people using these little tiny lights. I don't know about that. So it's funny. I had the Liberator. I built that, and then I don't know if I knew Parker then or not, but I finished it. And a friend of mine, Michael, he came by. I was living in a hotel in Asheville for 10 years. It was a pretty cool place. I had the office in the
That was a motel, John.
shop. Huh?
It was a motel, not a hotel.
Oh, motel. Thank you, Parker. And it did have a pool house.
And it was awesome, too. It was the pool house.
It was right on the main avenue. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
So my friend Michael, he said, John, you're going to photograph our next president, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you finished your camera and Obama's coming to town tomorrow. I said, so you're going? I said, well, yeah. And I had like 4 sheets of film and packed up the donkey bag and, don't need a light meter for that. I mean, doing it, and there's only a certain amount of speeds, and basically you got one aperture, right? 2.5, right? And went and took the picture, and that was it. And I felt guilty having it. He's like, God, this thing is, because he used to point, and that's the only thing in focus is his hand and his face, and a big crowd of people just all, yeah.
So what kinds of reactions do you get from people when they see you out shooting this? Or Ron, feel free to answer any of you guys who've had one of these cameras.
My experience when I went to the Obama thing is I walked in and, the guys in the black suits wanted to see the camera.
They wanted to sniff it with the dogs or something?
They wanted to check it out. And I said, well, here. And they said, well, you want to look through it, really? And like, look at him, what the hell? I said, no, just look through it. And I opened it up and he's just like shaking his head, like, what the hell? And I held it up, going to the stage, and Mr. BBC, he looks at it and said, come on up, man. I don't have to talk, just hold it up and go. It's just, it has a presence,
You should send that picture. You should send that picture to him too, John. If it's up on his website, I know, of the Obama.
Yeah, I've got a print in my kitchen.
That's cool.
And David Burnett was shooting that camera at some of the congressional hearings.
Yeah.
And that was very cool.
If you just Google old wooden camera impeachment hearing.
Yeah.
But so I built this camera, and then Obama shows up. I had the E6 film processed, and I looked at it. I'm like, because the night before I knew the picture I wanted, and then found out that Dave was really into the Aero-Ectar lenses, and then we met up in Asheville and built him a camera.
Okay, so Mark, you've got one also. For those of you who don't know Mark was a photojournalist in Richmond and Lexington for many years, and now is a photographer at the University of Kentucky. But what he really does is tintypes. So I'm curious, have you done any tintypes with the Liberator?
No, I'm always with the tintypes, as anybody knows who's done them, you kind of got to be careful where your silver goes. And that includes on wooden cameras. I've got a few that have a few battle scars, and I just haven't really taken the time to try to be careful enough to do one yet with the Liberator. But I feel like after this conversation tonight, I'm going to have to make a point to do that.
And it's worth noting that Mark, right behind him, is a large sign that says tintypes made here. So it's relevant to your background.
Yeah. Well, I always give my friends grief for having a bad background on a Zoom. I said, you're a photographer. There's no excuse. So I came in here today and tried to make mine look a little better.
Looks very cool.
No, thanks.
I just turn the lights down on mine. It helps out.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. Of course, that's an Avedon right there. So, should turn the lights on.
You don't have a Parker back there?
Oh, I got plenty of those.
When you first started making these, where did you get the name Liberator from?
Liberation. I wanted to be free from the studio and all that baggage and all that crap. Cases of stuff and lights and reflectors. Forget it all, man.
Liberated from the tripod, too.
Yeah. And so that's where it was. And then it's just like, liberation of the mind and soul, just to go. And then, the B-24 came up, which is the Liberator. And that was the aerial recon lens that they used these lenses in.
And that lens has some really special characteristics besides being, I wouldn't say it's really an aerial lens, but the out of focus highlights on it, the ability to shoot with it at 2.4, it just has some just incredible images that can come out of it.
Everyone is a little bit is magic, and it's a different design, and I know it's thoriated, but and then so that's the 7-inch 178 millimeter, and then here's the bigger bro. That's the 300 2.5. And this is a cutaway. That's how it is. It's ready to go the way it is, and had a tube that goes around it. But Parker's shot with this one, right?
Yeah, I still have mine, and I still shoot that on the 8x10.
Yeah, so I got two of these now. One with an aperture, which is super rare.
Is it a 305?
They changed, and this one, they're all a little different. This is a 307 millimeter. There's like 305 and 306, and
I had a 305 a little bit ago, and some guy in England bought it and built a camera around the lens.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a special lens.
John, has anybody ever assembled a collection of photographs taken with the Liberator from all the people that you've sold to, like either as a show, a gallery show, or as a book?
I would love to do that. And I moved from Asheville, 11 years ago, and then I lived at another place and then bought a house, and with a lot of help. And here's my studio. So here's like workbench. So everything's kind of built to height. So I have like a table and a work table, and then more stuff and parts and more parts and sewing machines for leather work and more parts up on the shelf and more camera stuff back here. Parker remembers my other shop.
A little different.
Yeah, a little bit, eh?
Yeah.
Nice wooden canoe and more parts and sewing materials and leather parts and more parts there and little milling machines over there. And yeah, it's my home away from home.
Now, do you make one camera at a time, or do you have them in various stages of assembly?
Kind of depends. I once had I think 8 going at one time, and it just got so confusing because the thing is that every camera body is different. They all have different widths and a little bit different depths, and they're a little crooked or something. Every one is a little different, and the parts are slightly different too. So it's a fit, and every piece has to be made for each camera.
Is number 111 in there somewhere?
Well, I'm not sure who has 111. So when I moved, I lost my book on all of the catalog.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I lost that in 3 cameras. So I don't know where the bodies are, but.
So you're saying the warranties are voided on those? Is that what you're saying, John?
No, if they come back, like this one here, number 12, this guy, he just wore this thing down, man. So like, for instance, the camera widths are all different. So the tilt piece, this metal frame here, every one of them is different. So they're all machined for each camera.
So are you restoring that one then? Refurbishing it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go through it and work the shutter, and every part will be taken apart and redone.
How often would you say that happens where a previous owner comes back to you and says, hey, could you freshen this up for me?
Let's see. Probably 3 out of 110.
Okay, so not often then.
2 people dropped theirs, Woody's, and cracked them, and I fixed them. You couldn't even tell they were broken.
Very cool. We have a large group of people here. At one point, I counted 18 people in the room. So does anybody want to ask John a question about his cameras or his process or anything?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So everybody that's got a Liberator, raise your hand. I can't. I don't.
Yeah, he can't.
Mark and Parker, you got rid of yours, right?
Yeah. You have it. I gave it back to you, and then you sold it.
Oh, okay. That happened. Yeah. You know, people, life changes, and then they want them back, so I found them another camera.
Yep.
That's what it is. It's this big family, you know?
Yeah. I wish I wouldn't have given it back to you, but I did. Eventually, there'll be another one in my hand.
But we got to work on your super wide 810.
Yeah, that's right. It's in progress.
Cool. Yeah, widest 8x10 lens you got, period.
Yeah, that's going to be ridiculous.
That's a sweet one, yeah.
How wide is that?
75 millimeter.
Oh, is it a hypergun?
Nope. It's an early Zeiss Protar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had the Protar and then the B&L, or not B&L, but the other company, they did a variant of it also. I think a 7.5 cm.
And it almost covers 810.
Wow, that's amazing.
João, did you have a question?
Sorry, I do, actually. John, thanks for joining. Quick question. I also happen to have a RB Super D. Unfortunately, it's the 3x4, so the smaller. So obviously, the Aero-Liberator would smash the mirror on that one. Do you have any suggestions what lenses I could use to try to fit into that? That would obviously not be quite the Liberator, but somewhat similar.
So what are you trying to achieve?
Right now, I think the max aperture on this one is a 4.5 something with a little bit faster aperture and maybe a little bit of different character.
I guess without going too crazy, I mean, you can send it to me and I could set you up with a different lens and a back so that you get a full frame. I know that some people are doing the 3D plastic backs on them, and I heard that a lot of those are breaking and cracking and stuff like that. And I had a stash of the backs because I replaced those, and so I've been putting those back into the circulation. Probably like the Hector lens.
Okay.
One of the projection lenses.
Yeah, I was going to mention in the Camerosity Discord, somebody a lot more resourceful than I am had suggested that. So I got this very inexpensive, I think it's 150, but fixed aperture f2.8.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still in the process of having to figure out a board and how to, play with it a little bit. But, it was so cheap that I figured, even if I break it or it doesn't work, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I use one of those for a looper sometimes. But, yeah, I think the Hectors.
Yeah, they're killer.
Go with the Hector.
Hector, I'll look into that.
Like a 190 or a 210. 210s get a little pricey, but it's a big lens.
How about a barrel lens? Would a barrel lens work if you...
Well, I guess the fastest ones that you could get that would Work would be a 180 Zeiss, so Zeiss 183.5,
Yeah.
or the I got one right here, 21 cm 3.5 Tessar.
Okay.
And that'll give you nice compression. It's not going to give you the yummy, the Liberator look to the background, and it doesn't give a flat cut where your focus plane drops. So you can tilt and swing. It's just kind of mushy. And I think the barrel lenses, they give you that bowl look,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
fishbowl look. But other than that, yeah, I'd say the Hector or some of the Tessar 3.5s.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking 4x5, and that's for those. I want to just take a minute because people, the listeners, may not be completely familiar with all the different options that you have in 4x5 cameras. The simplest, if someone today just said, "Hey, I want to get into 4x5," and they had never used a 4x5 camera. My own personal feeling is that the best way for anyone to start is just with a plain old crown graphic or a speed graphic. But a crown graphic, to me, I personally don't like focal plane shutters in large cameras. And I know that's alien to what John and the Aero-Liberator group would use, because that's what you have to have with that. That's your only shutter, unless you got a ping pong paddle and you can control it, 1001, 1002. So a crown graphic is, to me, that's the entry level drug. Matt, would you agree with that, or is that for someone who just comes in?
Oh yeah, for someone that's getting started in large format, a standard press camera like Crown Graphic's great, especially because there's a wealth of 3D printed stuff for it, and there's modern-ish accessories. As long as you've got the graph lock back, you're well on your way. But a lot of people like a new shiny camera too, but they just tend to forget that there's 150 years of technology to select from.
And you can get them for, $200 to $250 in good condition. Now the Chinese are making bellows. If you need to replace a bellows, it's easy to do. It's such a good gateway drug to large format photography. Then if you want to progress from there, if you needed to be able to do tilts and shifts and things like that, then you go to a monorail camera. And you can buy those relatively inexpensive also. Omegas or even Sinars today you can buy relatively cheaply. But then you have portability issues that you don't have with the speed graphic or a crown. The third option would be to go to a full-blown field camera like a Vista or a Tachihara or a Lenhoff. And you're going to sacrifice the swings and tilts to a certain extent, but you gain great portability. Even in some cases, the ability to handhold them, depending on how you go.
And they do have some swings and functions like that, but it's just more limited.
Yeah, and honestly, unless you're doing tabletop photography or serious architectural work, the amount of swings and tilts and shifts, and John is an old studio guy, so he's probably going to want to argue with me about it, but
no,
you don't really need to do that unless you're doing precise technical photography that needs to be done.
Yeah.
My buddy Lloyd Greene is here with us tonight too. And Lloyd, say something. What are you shooting now?
I've used all of the cameras that you just mentioned. I love the Crown Graphics, and I still shoot with it. My problem has been the lenses. They almost all stick, and you have to fool with them. So right now, I've been using Sinars. They're cheap, like you said, and almost every lens fits on it.
So using a monorail.
Well, a lot of the graphics and the graphic view are cheap enough that you can afford to have one of each, and then you can do your tabletop tilts and shifts with the view camera. And then there's a Graflex part, I forget the number, but it's the adapter from the pacemaker lens boards to the flat anniversary lens boards. So then you can use the same lenses on both, which is nice. The only caveat is the graphic view is not that great for wide angle lenses because you can't get the bellows too compressed. The older wide angle, like the Optar wide angle, it's really 90 millimeters flange to focal plane, and it doesn't really work to infinity on a graphic view 2. which is the model I have, because it has a longer bellows and there's that many more pleats that have to get squished together. But more modern wide angle lenses, like I have a 90 millimeter Fujinon, but it's got a 99 millimeter flange to focal plane. And that'll work with a little bit of room for a small amount of movement on a graphic view.
And on your graphic view too, you didn't use a recessed board?
I bought a recessed board, and the Fujinon, like you couldn't get your fingers into it. Like it was just too tight. It just wasn't practical.
Always an issue.
Yeah.
I got a question for Parker. You know, we were talking about film, and you're shooting paper.
Yeah, that's what I gave up wet plate in 2010, and I've just been shooting paper ever since.
What are you shooting?
Depends on what I'm shooting. Yeah.
Are you shooting fiber base or is it resin coated?
No, all RC.
All RC, okay.
Yep, all RC, because, like the fiber base leaves, I mean, I have shot fiber base and occasionally will, but most of the time I don't, because when I do my contact print, all those fibers come through in the print and create like a grain of something that has no grain, which is kind of weird looking.
That's what I was curious about. And you're finding you're getting paper with no back printing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. I'm really fascinated by the paper negative process. Most of what you're getting would be like for those at home who have not seen this. If you don't want to shoot film, a lot of people today, like Parker, are actually making their exposure in the camera on photographic paper. And usually it's, are you finding like ASA 3 or 4 somewhere in that?
It depends on the light source, but most of the time around 4 is where I land.
So, for the first thing is the cost to do that is I mean, film is really expensive when you get into
and paper's getting higher and higher and higher. It's crazy.
It is. And it's less and less silver in it. So it really pisses me off.
Learning curve to get it down takes a lot of paper too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's really, the way you treat it. I've done this for, 16 years now with just paper and created my own developer and everything out of my own urine. And everybody makes fun of me for it. But, when you look at the stretch dynamics of my tonal range, it's like, it's almost film on paper, which is insane.
So you stay hydrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I assume you have a special diet that you follow before that.
Vegan paper, yeah.
We could make some really pissy jokes here.
Just don't eat a bunch of asparagus before you're going to do a shoot.
Yeah, right? No, that's a bad idea.
Okay, so the other thing I'm curious about, you were doing collodion prints before the paper negatives. Okay, were you doing tintypes or glass plate?
Tintype.
Tintypes, okay. So Mark is doing tintypes now.
Right.
And I'm almost ready to drive to Lexington the next time I see he's going to be, somewhere at some brewery doing a shoot. It's about 70 miles each way to get there.
Oh, well, go. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, you just need to come over. We'll make time and then we'll go eat lunch.
I would really like to do that.
I think it'd be great.
First of all, I love the process. And there's a bunch of crazy people in the Midwest U.S. who are doing that. Carrie Janicek, she's up in Minnesota now doing it. And a guy, I can't remember his name at the moment, in North Dakota, I think, who's doing wet plate.
Shane Balkowicz.
Shane, that's who I'm trying to say, yeah. It's just that process is making a comeback, and the whole wet plate process, and people are getting involved in it again. And it's, I don't know if you remember, but it's cyclical. For a while, everyone was doing platinum prints and other cyanotypes and various other alternative processes. But those are all really simple compared to a wet plate and the steps involved in making either a tintype or a glass plate.
Yes, indeed.
So one quick question about using paper negatives. That's obviously blue sensitive. Do you just sort of get into obviously if you're doing tintypes, that's blue sensitive. But I always wondered, blue skies, getting them to look anything other than blank white. Or do you just take it into, that's your vision is going to be what blue sensitive gives you?
I'm fairly certain the multi-grade papers use more green than blue.
That makes sense. Now that you mention it, absolutely.
Right.
It's more of a green spectrum.
Orthochromatic, I guess.
Yeah. And, skies are what they are. Like, I just kind of take it for what it is. And Yeah. And even, I shoot a lot of portraits with mine, and, what they wear in, it's like they come in this bright green dress. It's like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to glow up. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't.
Do you enlarge those paper negatives or mainly do contact print?
Oh yeah. I got 6-foot prints around here somewhere that are paper negs that are scanned in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I do both. I do both scanning and contact printing.
Are you doing reversals as well?
No. I did reversal for a while, and you can't control the tones. And so that's where I kind of baby mine and sneak up on them. And like my process times are 10 to 15 minutes per sheet, which, typically for paper, it's almost instantaneous. So I drag it out and drag it out and drag it out and get every little bit of tonal range out of it. And it's worth the wait. But when you flip them, they lose it again. They go right back. And so I don't do that anymore.
I wonder what it would be like to be able to do a paper Cibachrome print like you're doing. Instead of black and white, do it on a reversal. Have you ever done it?
Do they still make Cibachrome?
No, it's gone.
I had a 66 Volkswagen Squareback living in Connecticut, and I converted it into the Cibachrome, the VW pinhole.
Cool.
And I took the back window out and put a pinhole in it, and I was shooting 1620 Cibachromes out of the back. So then I was using Dectol as a developer, and I could alter the developers to flatten it down a little bit.
Yeah. Dectol would lower the contrast of the Cibachrome print.
But you still needed their bleach.
You needed the bleach was the only part of that kit you used. The fixer was just plain old fixer. The developer was Dectol.
That was it.
It was a perfect process. And people were doing all these weird contrast masking stuff with it. I said, why are you doing that? You don't need to do it if you want to, but all you need to do is just change your developer a little bit. And
it took a while to figure that one out, but I still have a couple of Cibachromes kicking around. I wish I had the VV pinhole though.
I have Cibachromes I shot in 1972, printed in 72 that are still, it's the most archival process, besides dye transfers, the most archival process you could possibly do.
So while Cibachrome is pretty much gone, unless you have hoarded it and have it hermetically stored, there is the RA4 reversal process, which is janky, fun, and pretty cheap as long as you're buying like a pallet of supplies at a time. I started playing around with that back in 2018. It's a fun process. It's a lot of filtration. I would rather just do black and white negs on paper, but RA4 reversal is something you can do. You basically have to double C41 filter it in front of the camera, and then you're doing a black and white process, daylight flashing, or color temperature flashing if you want to get fancy, and then fixing it out. It looks like you're developing a color wet plate when you develop it. So I did a few videos on that, like 5 years ago now, but it has come and gone because people realize, wow, I don't want to put that much work into it. But if you have a color printing setup and some chromes you want to print from, it is possible.
Cool. I didn't know that. And I'm not sure we introduced Matt. Matt is with the Film Photography Project.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
We should say that because they are a terrific source for all sorts of, not only films, but also developer kits. And many of us are satisfied customers. Let's put it that way.
Right on. And what was the name of your company, Matt?
It's a podcast, but a film photography project. That's kind of the nonprofit-ish side of it. But then we also operate filmphotographystore.com, where there's a bevy of supplies. And Parker, I was gonna hit you up too. Have you played around with X-ray film at all? In 4x5, it's not really affordable, but 8x10, that's like the sweet spot for it.
Oh yeah, I shoot a ton of it. It's just, the double-sided emulsion and the scratching is just a bitch. It's so scratchy. Like you breathe on it, it's scratched.
That's why I got my hangers and tanks. I just suck it up and mix a gallon.
Well, I mean, just loading like I wear gloves, load the plates, they'll come out with scratches on them no matter what. I've got glass bottom trays that I hand process everything in, and they just scratch like crazy.
You got my metal tray though, Parker.
Well, yeah, I got your metal tray. I got your paddle too.
The magic metal tray and my paddle from the studio.
There's a paddle for the shutter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
From like a sales standpoint, like what kind of volume or demand, I should say, are you seeing for large format sheet film?
Large format's 2% of FPP, so it's not a lot. I don't have the exact sales figures. That's all Mike, the Don over at FPP, but it's 2-3%. When we started offering 4x5, it's literally was only because I was like, Mike, we need to carry this stuff. You know, we're getting medium format, and realistically, it's just offering things as your audience learns more and develops more. And FPP's been around for, this is year 17 of the Film Photography Podcast. So the audience has grown up in film. They've had kids that are shooting film now.
Yeah.
So it's a cyclical thing. And it's just a nice thing to offer. And we're now getting to the point, like volume wise, where distributors and schools are reaching out to FPP. We have our school donation program where we take in donation cameras, test them, refurb them a tiny bit, find matching stuff, and send them out to schools that need it. So offering that is just kind of supporting those curricula as well.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I bought a storage unit full of cameras. It was roughly 2,000 cameras.
Whoa.
And Leslie came down and filled up her car with 35 millimeter SLRs, and who knows, they were not inspected, they were not checked. I have no idea if they worked, but she got a load of them to donate to the school program. Also, I saw that you just announced a single shot developer kit, processing kit for black and white.
Oh, the monobath.
The monobath, that's right.
Oh, yeah. We came out with that just before the pandemic, and we've had runs of it. So where we source it from, sometimes makes our order right away, sometimes just does what he wants to do and never makes it and ships it. So we've been waiting a few years for it, but it's finally back in stock, and it's a fun way to kind of introduce development. I don't particularly prefer it because there's a lot of like constraints, like ISO kind of constraints, film constraints, temperature constraints. But if someone is like really not into the darkroom, hasn't caught the bug, it's kind of a cool way to go.
It's a good film test developer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you want to test a camera or something like that, in the long run, it's like a stabilization processor for paper. You're not going to want to keep it around for 6 months because who knows what's going to start to happen to the film itself.
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody like Mike or myself who needs to test a camera from time to time, and you want to do it fast and easy, it's a good way to do that.
Is it easier than HC 110?
It is. One step. That's it.
One step. Oh, well, you got me interested.
So the only thing it doesn't do is wash for you.
Yeah. I could pee on it.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you buy anything from Film Photography Store, you can always use discount code FOREVER, so FOREVER, and you'll always get a small discount at the end of your order.
All right. Now, in terms of film availability, you said only 2%, but in terms of what you offer for people, though, is there at least one option for color reversal, color negative? You know, like, is there at least enough still out there to where I could still have a little bit of variety if I wanted to?
Yes, you'd have to source it from different places, unfortunately, because some places are going to specialize in having, more of everything. FPP is definitely going to be black and white and a little bit of C41 from Kodak's catalog. But even if you go to like the mega online stores, there is enough black and white and C41, I would say, to kind of cover the pro bases. I would say Ilford Harman is kind of like carrying everything. So unfortunately, they don't currently make their C41 process films in sheet film, nor do they make an E6 process. But the only E6 that's out there is whatever Fuji kind of feels like making if they get yelled at enough.
I think Kodak might have just reintroduced E100.
Oh yeah, and E100s, has been around.
And they're coming out with reissuing Ektachrome. I just read the other day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, E100's been around. Yeah.
I thought I saw somewhere recently that Kodak was reintroducing Ektar.
That's what I read too.
Yeah, and that would be very cool.
It's been special order for years. You could go on B&H as long as you hit the MOQ. It was like 12 boxes or something, but you could always get it.
And Ilford will take orders once or twice a year for ultra large format.
Yeah, once a year. So it's weird. They do 2 orders. They do I don't know why they do this. They do like an ortho ULF, which is just for their ortho film, which is like super small, like 10% of the ULF. And then they do the regular ULF, which is the original one. And they're also in different windows. I don't know why. One's in like April to May-ish, and the other one's like May to end of June. And then you can place your custom order of FP4, FP4 Plus, HP5 Plus, or Delta 100.
Interesting that they're offering that many formats or many choices in the format. The other thing that has evolved, and you probably, all of you guys, I started counting the number of ways that I processed large format film. And it started with dip and dunk and nitrogen burst.
Yeah.
And then just went to dip and dunk. Then I went to Kodak hard rubber, dip and dunk. And then I went to the Honeywell Nikkor reels and tanks, which really was the easiest at that time because you could do it in daylight. It was more like working with 120 or 35. And then the Jobos, which were consistent and okay, but I never really got comfortable with rotary tube processing on film because it just overdeveloped it for me too much. And then the Patterson tanks with there you go. That's the stainless steel Nikkor.
There's a Nikkor.
Yep. Those are, I think, still, to me, the best, most consistent way I've ever developed.
I had a stainless steel tray for Parker, so I gave him to that. And when I did masks and friskets and stuff, I always used that tray. It was just simple and it was just smooth and get the agitation down. And it was, because that was the whole name of the consistent.
Was it a canoe or was it a flat tray?
Flat tray.
Okay. And so you'd agitate it by...
Just lift it up. I don't remember. That was 20 years ago, but...
Cool.
Then they had some stuff that was called Duratrans.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a frosted clear film.
Yep.
And it had silver on both sides. I had the most silver that Kodak ever put on film.
It was really made for rear projection.
Right.
The Duraflex. Duratrans was a transparency. Duraflex was an opaque material with the print on.
Yeah, I would use that in between the layers of films when doing masks and friskets and things. You could put glows and all that, but that was a wonderful material.
Paper negatives are just a lot of fun. I even like, cutting up a sheet and using it in my 4x5 a lot. Actually, I do it all the time to test all of the film holders when I get them every year. But mine are just always super contrasty when I shoot. And so I was sitting there listening to you go through the discussion, your ability to control the tonality in any form. How do you do that?
Well, with a combination of, do you flash your paper at all? Yeah, flashing the paper will definitely help. That'll give you about a stop of contrast control. And then lighting is key. Like, I'm crazy about my lighting. So no matter whether I'm shooting natural light or whatever, I'm always like really bringing that contrast down. If it's a heavy contrast, I just don't shoot it. So when I'm doing portraits, big soft boxes, big reflectors, really opening up everything. And then the development process, the question you asked about, what are you developing with? What kind of chemical?
Dectol.
Okay. So the first thing you can do is switch from Dectol to like a film developer, like a, Ilford film developer or something like that. That's going to help out a good bit because film developer, you'll notice your negatives come up real quick, right? They're just like, boom, they're there. Well, this way you can, because, we're working under a red light. For those of you who have never done this before, you process by inspection. So you just keep an eye on it. And when you're using a film developer, it'll come up real slowly and you can just slap it into the fixer when it's perfect, when it's done, and you can stop it. Otherwise, it's going to be black and white.
And you can dilute it down too.
Yep.
To dilute it way down. And that's what the urine helps do is it flattens it down, it takes the curve out of it. And it's almost like putting a stop bath in there, but it's not, it's on the edge.
Yep.
And so you can get a tone out of it.
Yeah, the uric acid definitely.
That's an old trick.
Yeah, nobody needs to know
Nobody
about
knows that one.
No.
Well, it looks like I have something to play with tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can you process in Xtol?
Yeah, you sure can.
Okay.
Sure.
It's just really flat. Yeah. I wouldn't do 1 to 3, but like up to 1 to 1's fine.
Yeah. And even like you want flat, like because you're battling the contrast with these things. You're wanting something flat.
Because I process film in Xtol just because I'm on a septic, so I got to be careful what goes into it. So I'm going to be taking the 4x5s out, and film is so pricey. So I had thought about starting to shoot paper neg, and yeah, it's kind of a nice solution then.
Yeah. And, X-ray film too is another great solution for that. It's fairly inexpensive. It's just It's hard to deal with. You get a higher ISO, which is nice. So you're up to like 125. Wow. Instead of 3 or 4. And there's blue spectrum and green spectrum to choose from. And it's pretty fun to play with.
It's nice to be able to load your holders under Safelite too.
Yeah, well, I will say be careful with X-ray film. The same red lights you use with paper, you cannot use with X-ray film. It'll fog it real quick.
Yeah, the safe lights need to be way further than you would place them for paper, and never direct, almost never direct, unless you have a super weak, controllable, known LED source.
Yeah.
I had one of these new modern LED lights, had one in my changing room, and it still had a little glow in it. So I took those out of the room.
And I bought that old amber, I forget what it's called. Kodak made the safe light. It's got a number on it, the 315.
OA was amber.
What was it?
OA.
OA, yeah.
No, it's like a 315 or something like that.
Okay.
And it's they used to use it for X-ray.
It was for film. It was a tech.
Yeah. So I found one of those, and they're super dim. They're hard to see, but they don't fog the film, which is great.
They've come a long way with LED lighting in terms of like soft light and mimicking old incandescent bulbs. But if you really look into the visual like spectrometers of what light bulbs emit and look at what an LED is putting out, it is not at all the same. To the human eye, it's close. But when you actually break it down, there's different wavelengths in there that either don't exist or there's too much or too little of something else. And that honestly doesn't surprise me that it still fogged your film a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, not LED. I'm not using any LED stuff.
John said he did.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Took them out of my changing room.
Yeah, I know that's a problem too with enlargers. When people want to go, if they've got just a standard screw and bulb for an enlarger, people are complaining that with LEDs, they're never shutting off completely. It takes a while for them to kind of burn out. And yeah, I know that's a problem.
Yeah, and I still can't figure out why people, you can still get almost every enlarging lamp ever made. So why screw around with the LEDs? Get a PH211 or a PH111A or even a 213 if you need it.
I think some of it is I've seen where people are converting their condenser enlargers to diffusion. So they want a high light source to compensate and without building up the heat.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. I think I'm not sure, is AristoGrid still around, or is there a source for Colite heads, or is that a thing of the past?
I tried it, but I always liked, the point light source. That was a real trip to print with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the D2s. I have one right here. See it as a work light.
Yeah, I'm using a Bessler 45 VXL, not the MX single inverter. Yeah, unless you're contact printing. I did like Colite heads. To me, they gave me the most control over what I was doing because they were difficult to use with variable contrast, but it could be done if you screw around with it long enough. We've got someone else chopped in that I don't think we talked to, and it was Erie. Erie, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I jumped in the podcast late. Unfortunately, the weather here has been just so much fun. We had to go out shopping, and it took forever to get home. I'm a large format nerd, I guess. I've been shooting large formats since about 84, and have far too much stuff, as it were. Although, Mike, your room makes me feel somewhat inadequate, quite frankly.
I only have one large format camera in this whole room, though, so it's full. It is full. I have no more room.
And the hard part is, I worked as a commercial photographer for years and still have 5x7, 8x10 Cinars and tons of Broncolor lighting and all kinds of goodies. I just moved into a new house in August, and hopefully in the next few months, I'm going to have a darkroom set up again. I do a lot of building, customizing, and basically the old school large format guy that, I ran across 5x12, interestingly enough, is a film size for dental x-rays. So I have 1,000 sheets of x-ray, 5x12 x-ray film here. I'm building a back for the
nice,
and it costs less than, 20 cents a sheet, maybe. So it's a really interesting format that I've talked to Steve Sherman, who shot 5x12 for a long time. And I'm really, really excited to get that going. But I'm a multi-camera, multi-format kind of guy. I've been shooting Nikon, not too long, since 76. I bought my first Nikon F. and still have. I have an incredibly dementedly large collection of glasses, all glasses I've used. Then got into Sony, the A7s for video work. Have a bunch of Nikon DSLRs from Kodak SLR-N up to D780 and all the, like a D1X, D2X, D3, Hasselblad, RB.
Yeah, you got too much stuff.
I do. Oh.
I'm just joking. You know, we don't judge here because it's not wise for us to judge.
At the Chicago show yesterday, several people walked up to me and shared stories of stuff that they've bought after hearing us talk about it on either the show or the website. I just smile and I say I'm always happy to help other people spend their money.
One of our listeners, Brad, did it to me. Brad bought a Hasselblad 907X and asked Mike and I a real simple question about it. And I thought, man, I got to go look at this camera. So I went to look at it, and the next thing I know, I got one. Which led to buying 5 lenses and another body for it.
Oh, jeez.
My problem, Paul, is I'm not afraid to dig in and repair things, and I'm cheap.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm frugal. I'm thrifty. As a matter of fact, I just bought, the other day from Roberts, I picked up a super wide, an SWC, that is a little tired, and it's not the prettiest, but I shoot with a P30. Most of the time out in the field, I shoot with a P30 back now. Mm-hmm. Couple years ago, I was looking at the price of medium format film after my stash had had a stash of a couple hundred rolls. And when it was gone, looking at the price of film, I'm like, man, I've got a Canon 8400 printer here. And I print a lot of my own digital stuff. And it's not hard to justify a $1,500 digital back.
No, not about the price of 120 film today.
And I process all my own C41. So it's kind of, even at that, it still ends up being $20 a roll, no matter how you look at it. So yeah, that I've got a better light scan back. I've got most of the early CNR digital backs. I mean, it's lots of everything.
Are you still working?
Yes, I do a very little bit of commercial work here and there. I try to avoid it. The problem being that I would just as soon shoot still lifes with my scan back on a 4x5 and have something that actually looks presentable to me. But people have gotten so used to the DSLR commercial photography look that it's a hard sell, and people don't see the value in having things that are done right.
I agree.
I'm not a fix-it and post kind of.
When DSLRs got to be, 6 megapixels, in my area, the companies would decide that they didn't need to hire a photographer anymore because that was good enough.
Well, and that's the thing. When I bought my SLR-N, 14 megapixel full frame, this really is, as long as you could deal with, the magenta green issue and you were careful with your lenses. But I have a few clients that mostly higher end, like vineyards and, people that appreciate quality. And when you show them the difference in being able to control your plane of focus, being able to control everything, it matters to them. And they appreciate it once they see what it is. But for the most part, it's just a really sad hobby. I live in upstate New York now, so it's there's a plethora of places to go shooting. And your typical old guy shooting large format film, it's like decrepit things and dead things and trees, mostly.
That's a question I've been wanting to ask here. Earlier, Parker, you had said that X-ray film scratches incredibly easily, so you have to be really careful. But have you ever tried shooting that film to its strengths and embracing the scratches, in maybe a cemetery or urban decay kind of photos?
Sure, you don't really have a choice with it, so you better embrace it.
You're purposely choosing a topic that looks good, distressed or scratched.
Well, yeah, but I also use it for portraits as well for all my projects or a lot of my projects. And if there's a scratch that goes right across the eye or the face, I'll retouch it. That scratch will come out. The rest of them will stay.
Parker, how are you processing your X-ray film?
My same developers I use for my paper NIGs.
Have you tried hangers?
Oh, how am I processing? Okay, no, I use a glass and metal flat bottom trays.
Have you tried dip and dunk?
I have, and I seem to, every time they go into the metal hanger,
they're just going to scratch, unless you're doing one sheet at a time.
Yeah, I found I did worse damage with the dip and dunk. When it happened, it was almost unusable.
You used to be able to get, and I have 2 of these because why wouldn't I? They used to make these baskets for processing color print films, and it's like a screen, like stainless steel screen material.
Yeah.
With dividers, and you can fit 6 or 8 sheets, and it fits in a 1-gallon tank beautifully. And I have found that as long as I'm careful, I don't get any scratches on X-ray film.
Okay.
But I do the same thing with my regular 8x10 hangers. I curl it slightly away from the stainless as I'm dropping it in, and just at the very last, let it lay flat and flip the clip over. And I found that helps a great deal.
Fantastic. Maybe I'll give that a whirl, because, I mean, it's not, I've gotten used to it and I've gotten better where I don't scratch as much, but, I'm typically always getting a scratch here and there.
Yeah, it took me a while. I finally said, looking back at, you go back 100 years, people have been using hangers for 100 years, and this is a relatively new problem. I mean, granted, X-ray film's a little softer, but...
And it's double-sided.
And one day I said, you know what, let's just try it. And it pretty much convinced me right then and there that this is the way forward.
Yeah, it's inexpensive. It looks great if you nail the exposure.
I'm down to, I think I have my last roll of Avifot 200 that I've been saving, and I've got all my IR filters that I'm really getting eager to. Once the sun and the leaves start coming out, I'm probably going to cut some up and get it out there.
Yeah.
Matt, can I ask you a quick FPP question?
Sure.
When I first started getting into developing 4x5, and I was looking for like a solution that I could sort of integrate with what I was already doing with 35 millimeter, I ended up with the Mod 54 insert for the Patterson tank.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are those still available? I'm not seeing them around as much, and I was wondering if they're not. Do you have recommendations for people that are getting into this that might, need a little bit of advice on how to get started with developing 4x5 at home?
Well, my advice is probably not the best universal advice. So if you've already have a 35 mil Patterson system, probably the easiest way to experiment around at this point would be heading over to Yegi or Thingiverse, because there are a million different 3D printed ripoffs of insert name brand version here. And there's pretty good print materials you can work your way through. That being said, Mod 54 was a solid one. There was any number of, I don't want to say copycats, but similar based ones to that. FPP for a while carried the 20th Century Camera ones. And then we kind of lost touch with Jeff with stock over there for a while. So I don't know if we stock those ones anymore, but anything that integrates with the Patterson system is nice. I mean, you could do the taco method. You can get a couple of hair bands, and just smack them in there. I'm always a big fan of trays because that's how I learned. And if you can rotate through a stack of sheets in the dark anywhere, throw a towel under the bathroom door and flip the lights off. A few minutes later, you've got something. And most films are going to be pretty great at resisting scratches unless you're using the claws on them. So that's my recommendation, but it's not the best one.
I agree with you, Matt. The Cat Labs is what I'm currently using. But
Cat Labs, yeah.
Yeah, the only one I really don't like, the only method of processing 4x5 I really have always disliked is the Yankee tank.
Yes, I am a certified Yankee hater.
Oh, man. I mean, it takes a half gallon of chemistry. The only way to agitate it is lift and drop. I just have hated that tank for as long as they've been out there. I sold a lot of them, but I never liked them.
Not enough beer for those things.
I have them, but for just doing a few sheets, I have the Stearman Press plastic tank that he sells through Fotrio mostly, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, Stearman is fine.
I think if you're patient and observant and keep an eye out, the Jobo 2509 reels with a Jobo tank sometimes pop up pretty inexpensively. I was fortunate enough that when I went back to school, 15 years ago now, they were just film, and I was able to latch on to 4 tanks with 2509 reels in them. I still see them from time to time, pretty reasonably priced. I see a lot of ridiculously overpriced ones, but every once in a while you see a reel and tank pop up, and as long as you pay attention, they're pretty foolproof.
I don't like the rotary tube is my problem.
Well, you still just use it as an inversion tank.
Yeah, and you can do that. It just uses so much chemistry. But it is what it is. You get used to it. You get your times and temperatures down, and it works fine. The other thing I wanted to ask around to see how you do it is, I don't know how many people are still printing 4x5 negatives on an enlarger. But last week when we were talking on the episode about film scanners, and I become a proponent of DSLR scanning, or mirrorless camera scanning is the way I do it. And AJ came up with a really good point that when you use a camera to scan, a negative or a transparency. You are limiting yourself to the file size of that camera. Whereas when you use a dedicated film scanner, like a flatbed scanner or something like that, you're able to choose whatever resolution you want from the software, which can produce more information than you'll ever be able to get with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera itself. Does that make sense?
Well, you could stitch, and then you could really get high resolution with the camera, but it's such a pain.
Yeah, that's a hit or miss operation.
I have a Bessler dual mode slide duplicator that was literally picked up off the curb one day. It resolves some of the whole alignment issue. I mean, I use an 80 millimeter Rotagon on it. Stitching isn't the end of the world if you're very careful about it. But yes, a lot of scanners are essentially 600 to 1200 DPI scanners. So anything above that, the software is interpolating, which you can probably do better.
I find I use my GFX 100 too, and I get fantastic scans with that. I have no problem with that. And I've got the V850 scanner, and I prefer the 100 for sure.
That's interesting. Is I'm thinking about doing it with the Hasselblad, the 907 or the X2D. The X2D will be 100 megapixels.
On more critical jobs, I'll use my 500C with the 120 or the 135.
And I could do that too. That's a good point.
Well, I have a P30, or I'll use a CNR 54M in 16-shot mode. You get true color, you get true RGB, and you get the pixel shifting going on. And basically, I just, with an ELM, you can just, I have it hooked up. I just start it and walk away and let the CNR software just fire off the camera 16 times.
So we've covered developing, we've covered X-ray film, we've covered paper, we've covered peeing. If you're going to get started in large format, we talked about the Crown Graphic being a good starting point. What's the next step after that look like, though? Like, what would people's path typically be to get from something like an entry-level camera to an Aero-Liberator? I mean, I feel like that's a huge jump. So, like, where would somebody go if they've already dipped their toe into it, but maybe they're looking for something a little bit more in depth or to give them a little bit more quality or options?
And it's got to be large format?
Yeah, right.
Well, I like the graphic view too, but I'm sort of a Graflex fanboy. But there's lots of 4x5 monorails that are not expensive, and you can do all the movements. They're not as rock solid as like a CNR with a heavy base and all that, but you could do everything with them. It just takes a bit longer, maybe.
I think it really depends on what you want to do with it. If you want to do moss, rocks, and trees, a field camera is really going to be your best bet for portability.
The tripod.
Yeah, the tripod is the most critical part of it. But with a field camera, you can go with a lighter tripod. I really hate to tell somebody to buy a lightweight tripod because it's just asking for trouble in the long run. But, you get a carbon fiber tripod, get an onion bag to hang from the center column, and you can make do with that rather than haul around a Gitzo with 20 pounds of tripod. It's just, people aren't going to carry it.
Is a Manfrotto sort of like a nice in-between?
Manfrotto is an excellent tripod.
John's got the one right there.
There it is. That's all I have left from the studio days. So majestic,
And what is that?
Majestic for the Chicago head.
Is that a geared head?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every camera I build goes on that thing. And I got a few Balcar packs left and a few heads, but I give all the buy tubes and stuff out to people shooting wet plates.
It's funny. When you shoot wet plates, Mark, what kind of exposures are you getting? 3 to 4 seconds?
I started out doing wet plates with strobes, and I loved that. And I came home, I was on fire when I first learned. I was just wanting to. I luckily already had some Speedotrons, but not quite enough. But I had enough people around here that had some from the old sports days and newspapers, so I was able to put together the correct watt seconds I needed. And then I started feeling maybe a little like a poser. I'm like, do I really know what I'm doing here? Or am I just, I knew the process, but I didn't feel like until I knew how to do it, go outside and look around and figure out what my exposure was, that I felt like I wasn't going to be complete, I guess, which might be silly, but that was just a pride thing. But now, I'm shooting anywhere from 2 seconds to, 8 seconds in general. I haven't done a lot of outdoor stuff yet, especially where I'm closing down and going for longer exposures, except when I went to John Coffer's house for my second workshop. he's the one that's kind of kept this process from dying in the early 70s, and he doesn't believe in any electricity. I was just thinking about him today because he lives in New York. He has no running water, no electricity. That's just the way he lives. And I'm like, hope he keeps it healthy for this summer, because we're all supposed to go up there for one final gathering. But anyway, he would look around, and I have 2 portraits I did of him. One was 16 seconds of him on his front porch, and one was 25 seconds of him in the back of his cabin. And I remember when he was helping me figure out what those were, he said, this is about 25 seconds. And I said, Jesus. I was like, well, this probably isn't a portrait then, right? And he's like, I can handle it. So he just lodged up against a tree and didn't move a bit except for his eyes, and the picture came out incredibly sharp. So, it gave me a little faith. So now whenever I get the time, going, I'd love to get even more. I'm just still not 100% as confident with it, figuring out my exposures. I don't want to be there, the guy doing tests all day, trying to get something right.
Well, so when you coat a plate, is it the same ASA every time?
It is basically, but you start getting into different collodion mixes, and I haven't experimented with a ton of them. I got what worked and I stuck with it. And then when I went to a few workshops, they would use something different. I would experiment with that for a little bit. But Brian at UV Photographics, which is one of the few companies in the U.S. that you can still buy premixed chemistry from, or you can buy your raw chemistry from. There's different collodion mixtures that he sells, and people say this one's a little faster, this one's a little, gives you a little more, better for portraits, maybe better for landscape. So in this testing world, everything takes 10 to 12 minutes, so it's not like you're doing a quick test and having instant results. Plus you're buying at least usually 500 milliliters of something. So once you get it, you're not just able to throw an SD card in, shoot a few frames and make your changes. So it's a little harder, the testing process.
Yeah, and the 10 type, once it's been coated, you're working under the clock then too.
Yeah, and I haven't had anything yet dry up on me. And I've had one nightmare. My first art fair I went to, I was not prepared to go to. I thought I was doing an outdoor thing. I did have strobes set up, but it turned out to be a 90-some degree day. And I'm just putting out a real piece of crap, but people are loving it. And they're all like, this is amazing. And I'm sitting there saying, it's really not, and I'm convinced I'm not exposing these people enough. I had a 14800 watt second head on them. So I call a friend of mine to bring me a second light. In the middle of that, a guy named Dale Wilson up in, I believe he's up in Canada. He wrote me because I put out a help me post on Facebook to asking anybody what I'm doing wrong. And he said, are you using iron potassium developer? And I was, and he said, is it hot there? And I said, it's very hot. And he said, that turns into kind of a bleaching agent when it gets overheated. So I'm already killing these people with a nuclear holocaust of light. And then I'm going into the little tent and pouring bleach on them. So I learned quickly that, that there was other parameters besides just learning how to pour and coat a plate.
Yeah, I think consistency is really pretty hard to do when you're working under different conditions like that. And unless you really get it done.
Yeah, I learned a lot that day. I've done a few outdoor ones since then. I've learned enough to not necessarily do one in August anymore in Kentucky, unless everything came together. But I'm doing most of them now. I'm working it out where I can do them indoors or at least in somewhat temperature controlled situation.
We were talking earlier among ourselves about the whole process of using a large format camera. And one of the hardest things for me when I first started using them was to get the correct exposure. I mean, I knew how to use a light meter and I knew how to take a 1 degree reading and I knew how to do this, but I was shooting a lot of moss, rocks, and trees. So I was doing close-ups and I was having some serious underexposure and I was trying to figure out my bellows extension and what correction to use for the bellows extension. And I realized that what I really needed was a Kodak Master Photo Guide.
That's it.
This is a Kodak publication called an AR-21, and they've made a whole bunch of different variations. I'm holding it up here. Over the years, I think I've got them all the way going back to 1960. But in this little book is just about everything that you need, including a gray card, flash bulb, photo lamp exposure dial. But the coolest thing about it is that there's an exposure compensation, a lens extension computer. So what you basically do is you look at this little thing and see your focal length of your lens. Then you measure with a tape measure from the front element to the film plane, and you put it on this little dial, And it says if you have a 150 millimeter lens and a bellows extension of 12 inches, you need to overexpose 2 stops. So that takes care of all the guesswork as when you're doing any close-ups with the 4x5 extended camera.
Polaroid helps too.
Well, Polaroid.
Or else you could I just use a tape measure and a 12-inch lens. You go to 12. What's your next aperture? It would be 14. So that's like 3/4 of a stop, and you go to 18 inches and count off f-stops.
Yep. So there is some math involved in it.
If you're lucky and patient, you can find Visual Departures used to make something called a quick stick.
Yeah.
And I'm literally holding one in front of me. I had to grab it out of my cabinet. It's got a fixed end and a moving slider, and from 300 millimeter lenses. And you align your film plane, your lens plane, and you can directly read off how many stops of exposure comp you need.
There was one that you'd measure on the ground glass.
Right. You put it in the picture and then you'd measure it on the glass or something like that.
Yeah.
That one works really well too.
Those are so simple. And Kodak actually makes a larger version of this called the Professional Photo Guide.
Right.
Those things are, I don't know why every photographer, a film photographer in particular, doesn't have one of those. They're just the most useful thing for all kinds of things. Filter factors, all kinds of things.
Everything's in there. I've got 2 of them. I don't know where I put them, but the little one and the bigger one.
Yeah, the gray one.
And they have the black, the color lab too.
Yeah, there was color, but those are really handy. If you see them at a photo flea market or something, pick one up. It'd be a lot of help.
I have an equipment question going back to starting out in 4x5, with various cameras and stuff like that. So for me, lenses, someone just starting out and not having a giant budget for really expensive, fancy, amazing lenses and shutters, what would be good recommendations for that?
Lenses are so dirt cheap now. It's unbelievable how cheap, not the gold day goers or those, because they're always going to hold their value. And the Aero-Ectars are valuable, but any of the Schneiders and Rodenstocks are all excellent lenses.
And some of the Kodaks, 10-inch, a 14-inch, you can't beat that. Right, Parker?
Yeah, buddy.
And don't be afraid of a Graflex Optar or a Wallensack, whatever, or Ilex.
I'm a Fujinon. I shoot a lot of Fujinon stuff, the Fujinon W's. And
yeah, they're excellent. There probably were some bad large format lenses, but I've never seen one.
In this hobby, whether you're talking large format, miniature, medium format, whatever, I think there's a lot of fantasizing about the different brands, your A-list makers like Zeiss and everything. And while those lenses are great, there's so many good options out there. Someone mentioned Wallensack lenses, and I would argue that a good early mid-century Wallensack lens is just as good as almost anything that was put out there. And if you're going to go through there and try and shoot on a budget, don't feel like you're missing out. Going from a low value budget lens to something like a Zeiss, it's not going to give you a huge leap in image quality because there's so many good lenses out there.
And you're always able to shoot, but a lot of times you can shoot at f/16 or f/32 or in honor of Ansel f/64. That'll solve a lot of optical problems.
Or 2.5.
Yeah. And that's the difference, isn't it, John? The difference is not the optical quality, it's the rendering of the lens.
It's the rendering of the lens, yeah. And when in the studio days, because I was doing this photo composition stuff, and the contrast would build up. And I found that the old Fujis were the highest contrast. It's kind of get inky, and you dupe it onto another one, and it jumps again, and dupe another dupe. In one studio, Julie, she had the Fujis, Ty had the Schneiders, and I had the Nicors. So it just kind of got to play with they each have the little contrast range. Not that it's going to matter to the new person, but we were all shooting E6 back then.
So you had no latitude for exposure.
Yeah, but you just shoot for the highlight, black and white, shoot for the shadow.
When I first got back into shooting 8x10 as a hobbyist, I had an old piece of crap Turner Reich triple convertible, which is universally, most people say it's a horrible lens. Yet, and like a fool, I sold it. I started buying, and they got dirt cheap in the early 2000s. And I've been searching for one, and apparently people have figured out that they're actually a really decent lens.
Well, you pick your lens for what you're shooting. If you're looking for a particular distinctive look, then you want to get to some of the older lenses are going to give you, they're not sterile. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The Wallensack Velocimax 2s with the variable softness fuzzilator, as everybody calls it, is a hidden gem that, up until recently, nobody really even cared about. With the softness control at 0, it's a really sharp lens, from about f8 on.
And don't ever be afraid of uncoated old lenses. If you want a different look, uncoated will do that.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we do need to start winding this down. I wanted to give everybody here a chance to ask any last questions. I know, Howard, it looks like you had one you wanted to ask in the chat.
Well, it's more about technique. And, so we talked about Aero-Liberator and 4x5 SLRs are the area I didn't know anything about. But I imagine, I think Graflex was, I know they were used for sports because you focus and then the mirror flips up and you could take the picture right away. And the press cameras, if you can calibrate the lens to the rangefinder, you can spontaneously take a picture just at the moment you want. But I'm kind of wondering, studio photographers, the famous one in my city was Karsh, Josef Karsh. They used view cameras in the studio, and I've tried to do a few portraits. I'm not that great at focusing. I stop it down to f22 and hope for the best. It doesn't allow for any spontaneity, like flow posing where the model's moving all the time. You can't do that because the plane of focus is like an inch, maybe, if you're lucky. Like, how do you guys do a portrait with a view camera? Do you have like a string and then, just before you take it, you make sure the string comes to the same place that it, how do you do it?
That's been done. That's the old school way of doing it, especially for kidnappers.
Yeah.
Get the camera on the monopod and chase them around the studio.
Well, I just like Irving Penn, he famously posed people in the corner of maybe it's because that allowed him to pre-focus, and then as long as they didn't move their shoulders, they stayed the right distance from the camera.
Well, you got to pick your tool for the job. For the fashion stuff, Karsh could do it. All the Cecil Beaton, the British photographer, the great British photographer, used 4x5.
He was amazing, by the way.
You have to do it the way that works with that camera. If you want to work movement, then you go to a Hasselblad. You go to an SLR. A Rolly, I don't care what it is, but you can't do it with a camera that you're not viewing at the time of the exposure.
Okay, so there's no magic.
There's no magic that I've ever heard of. And you don't want to shoot with it at f64 because you're going to get into the diffraction problems. And
it'll get muddy.
You're better off shooting at f16, f22 range than stop it down all the way.
That's where the SLRs come into it because you can focus as you go. So
Here's the Obama picture. I just finished the camera and I had 4 sheets of film. I pre-visualized what the picture was of him up at the podium there. And the only thing really in focus is his hand and his face.
Yeah, and see, that's just an unbelievable picture. The combination of the camera and the lens that you used is probably the only way you could have ever got that picture.
I want to say everything you said is true, Paul, but it does require a lifetime of instinct and intuition too.
Absolutely. The equipment doesn't take the picture, all the years that you put into it.
Well, and I heard, there's this belief for people in the trades, an electrician or a plumber. Let's say you have a pipe burst in your house and you hire a plumber to come fix it, and he bills you for 4 hours of work, but maybe he fixes it in 45 minutes. And a customer might say, well, you're only here 45 minutes. I'm only going to pay you for that amount of time. He goes, no, you're paying for the years and years of experience that I have that allowed me to do that repair in 45 minutes. And I think Parker and a couple other people were talking earlier on the show about how people aren't willing to pay to get the job done right, anymore. And I think that with that experience is what you're paying for when you pay to have someone come shoot a beautiful picture like that Obama one or any of these other ones where, the camera is a great part of it. The lens is part of it. Like, you can't make the picture without those two things, but you also can't get those great pictures without the years of experience. And when you pay someone to do a really good job, you're paying for the experience, not necessarily the exact amount of time it took to accomplish whatever it is that they did.
Right. And I'll add to Howard, it's like really getting out there and pushing yourself, knowing what you can do. It's like the 8x10 is almost my daily camera. So I've shot, I don't even know how many plates. It's like, it's unbelievable. But I mean, just last weekend I made 60 plates, and then I take it to the rodeo. I shoot the rodeo with the 8x10. So I'm doing action stuff on the 8x10, shooting at like 4.5, 5.6 with a 300 millimeter lens. And it's all just kind of knowing the timing. You focus in on one spot and just kind of watch it. And not everything hits, but when it does, that's when the magic happens. And I think we have been ruined by this digital phenomena that has infiltrated our lives. That it's like, it's supposed to work. No, it's not supposed to work. It's science. It's supposed to play. You're supposed to play with it and figure out, and then you invent new shit as you go along, and it's yours. And that's why people come to Howard.
Any beginner can take a modern digital camera and put the continuous shutter mode and just hold down the button while somebody's talking, and maybe one of those pictures will actually be at the right moment and it looks good. But it takes a ton of experience and intuition to do what John did with 4 sheets or even one, like
That's all I had.
Yeah, you only had it, and you got a award-winning photo out of it.
No.
I don't know if you actually won an award, but
No, I felt guilty having the damn camera, and so I built it, and then went out and prayed, and something said, John, take pictures of the inside. I said, okay, and I sold it on eBay. The guy in France bought it, and there it went, and so I started building them, But, I mean, it's just, I'd get assignments to do stuff, and you have to build the cameras to fit the occasion,
Yeah.
Go out the inside of a telephone booth. Elevator booth.
Elevator, yeah.
Yeah, you know that one, Parker.
Yeah, that camera is amazing.
So, John, if someone listening to the show wants to get in touch with you to either ask you a question or possibly even have you build them a camera, how would they do that?
Just contact me on Facebook or just go to johnminnicks.com, MINICKS. There's some videos on there. And I mean, I feel weird that it's all about me, but it's not all about me. It's all about us, the community here. But there's some fun videos and things in there, and like to talk. So how's Anthony doing? Oh, okay. There you are down there. I didn't hear your voice. Well, I got something for you here, Anthony.
Oh, we need to. Yes. I do need to come up your way.
Voigtlander lens case.
I'll show it to the inside. Well, I guess I'll show it to you anyway. I got there a while back, and Anthony and we met at Blue Springs, and we were walking down the elevated catwalk by the springs, and I looked down at Anthony. He's like, well, you tell the story.
Well, I was out shooting my Retina Reflex 3.
Yeah, and I looked at him and said, Retina Reflex 3, and you're like, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I've got your 200 for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I'm so looking forward to that.
Really nice shape, man.
Yeah, it looks great.
A gift.
Yeah, I'm getting in the water tomorrow. I'm taking advantage of the fact that we're going to have 28-degree weather tonight. I've got my Mykonos 5 loaded up with black and white 800 speed, and my 3 loaded up with 250D. So I'm going to go chase around manatees at Silver Glen Springs tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're up my way, let's go, man.
Absolutely. I was shooting out at Fanning Springs, but all of the, we've had such a drought that the springs along the Swanee are just absolutely threadbare. I don't know if you've seen photos of like Little River. In all of my life, I've never seen the water so low on those springs on the Swanee.
Yeah, but it's a different observation too, to get down into the bedrock there too.
Yeah.
The walk parshed and,
I thought in honor of John, I needed to show the Aero-Liberator's father that I've got, I believe is a baby Bertha.
What's the lens on it?
It's a 50 centimeter 4.8.
Wow.
And is that a 5x7?
No, it's a 4x5.
Huh.
I've got a 5.7 with a 3.5 500 on it in the room. Want me to drag it out?
No, I don't want you to. Don't take a chance of hurting yourself.
It won't hurt it.
Hey, before we go, Mark Widhalm, Cletus, you were at the show on Sunday. You bought a couple cameras. I was curious if your wife was okay with them when you came home. Were you all right?
She was all right.
She was? Okay. I was guiding him on some budget cameras. You want to really quickly tell us what you bought?
Yeah, I got a Voigtlander Perkio, which was a whole whopping $25.
It's one of Anthony's favorite cameras.
Yeah, I have a Zeiss 645 folder, and I wanted a square, so that worked out perfect. And then I bought that Fed, so I got my first Soviet camera, well, other than my Lubitels, and I already reskinned it too. That's what I did last night. I got home and I made it look. I took a $20 camera and made it a $30 camera.
Very cool.
Does it smell like bacon grease or?
Exactly. And then I got in the bargain bin, I got an Altix N, and that works fine too. So they all work. So for $60 or whatever it was, I did all right.
You really lucked out with that Perkeo. I have dragged mine around the world 2 or 3 times. For me, it's like the most pocketable medium format camera. That version of the Color Scopar it's a jewel of a lens. I think you'll be really happy once you shoot with that.
He was looking at a Zeiss Icon Super Iconta 6x6 for a little while, and that camera is massive. And then he found the Perkeo. I showed it to him side by side. I'm like, this camera is closer in size to a Retina than it is to the Zeiss, because that Zeiss is a monster.
Yeah, I've got one of those if anybody's interested in it.
This thing is, I got it home and looked closer at it, and it looks like new. It seems like all of the shutter speeds they sound fairly accurate.
I already have one, but I was kind of kicking myself that I didn't pick it up before you did.
I just picked up like 3 days ago a 6x6 German folder, an Adox Golf, which I knew nothing about, and it's got some pinholes, but I'm waiting for the electrical tape to dry. But it seems like a decent camera. I knew nothing about Adox, and I knew they made chemicals, but I didn't know anything about their camera business.
I was out in San Francisco last week, and I went to Seawood and found a Perkeo 1 with a Scopar, and I picked it up too. I think that's my 6th Perkeo now. So I've got I've got 3 1s, 3 2s, and I think I got an E on the way too. So
nice.
It's a bit of an affliction.
Whoa, where'd you find the E?
eBay.
Wow.
So I found an E on eBay, and it wasn't a $600 from Japan one, thank God. So I found one we'll see. You never know, right? Until it gets here. But
that's true on Unobtainium.
Yeah, they're out there, but they're like $600-$700. And they're like, no way am I paying that for it. I found this one cheap. If it doesn't work, they're easy they're pretty simple cameras too. So
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry I really don't think Jurgen's taking on repairs anymore.
That's one of my ones I had. I had a roll of film in it, and I brought it along on this trip, and I went to shoot it, and I went click, and it's so slow. And I thought, okay, it's gummed up in there, so I need to shoot it full of lighter fluid. Yep.
Naphtha, man.
Yeah.
I'm playing around with some new stuff to fix pinholes. Kind of a step up from the liquid tape stuff, but
we get yelled at if we talk about repairing shade tree mechanic type repairs on this show. So
good. I don't know. I don't promote it. Have work.
I was going to tell John what a treat it's been to have him and Mark and Ron and Parker. We had no idea Parker was going to turn out.
John invited me. It's his fault.
Yeah, that's all right. It's worked out really well. And Mike just texted me and said, this may be the longest discussion about pee we've ever had on this show.
The old pee story goes back, before COVID days. Yeah,
long before COVID days.
Well, and then Lloyd came. We've had a few people drop off, but Lloyd, we had some really amazing guests on here. Parker and John, you guys are welcome in any future recordings. Every episode is different, so we don't always get in a large format, but we go all over the place. I'm getting closer. I know I keep saying this, but I'm getting closer to having some other special guests come on. I had reached out to John back in early January, so you were one of the guys that I was kind of hoping to get on soon too, so we can cross that one off. We've been talking about wanting to do a large format show forever. We are going to do another Retina episode. I was talking with the guys just today, and we put together a list of 8 or 9 ideas for some future shows. So we do have a lot of great ideas coming up soon for future episodes. We are going to be doing another Euro time zone friendly episode coming up soon. If not the next episode, it'll be the one after that, because we have a lot of people who like to listen to us in Europe, and just because of the time in which we're recording here in the US, it's the middle of the night there. And we want to be able to kind of spread the love. We've had people from South Africa call on the show before too. So the next episode will definitely be recorded on Monday, March 16th. Whether or not it's at our usual time or the Euro-friendly time zone remains to be seen. But look out for the show announcements in the usual places, our Discord server, our Facebook group, or even my website. Again, I want to echo what Paul said. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for coming on the show. As always, the topics and discussions on the Camerosity podcast are determined, dictated, and influenced by you. So if you have a question or an idea for a future show, you can contact us and suggest it. But the best way to do it is just to simply show up and ask some questions. And that's how the best episodes go. So thank you, everybody who's here, and everybody have a great rest of your week, and good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Yes, sir.
Night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See y'all. Thank you.
Night, night.
Good night, Parker. And I invited some people from Europe, but they didn't make it.
Yeah, the time is not convenient for them.
We get lucky every once in a while. Someone will wake up in the middle of the night, but I mean, it's like 3 a.m. there right now.
I get some late nighters that I talk to. They call me in and talk cameras. So